The house was run down, and many people were afraid to enter because of the ailment. So he just went in, washed the children, gave them baths, cooked the food, helped to nurse the sick person till they recovered, and then disappeared. He spent nearly 40 years doing this, from one place to another. His only desire was to serve. He never tried to teach them anything. He didn't have to, because he brought thousands of them to religion by the living of it. And there have been persons in all religions that have made these kind of contributions. And they are the ones whose advice is probably the most vital of all, because it is obvious that it is a solution to the greatest need of the human heart, the need to serve. So we watch these things every day, and we read in the papers, and we read the books about all the new things that are happening, and the wonderful discoveries that are being made, and many of them are very good. But when we come to these problems and start reading the books, it might be very well for a person who is reading because he's in trouble to pause for a moment before he studies the cure recommended and finds out what the cure is inside of himself. If he is an alcoholic, he does not need to read books on the subject. He has only one problem. He's got to get over the ailment or it will destroy him. There are many ways he can fight it, and he can win. But regardless of anything, it is an action of his own. 1,000 people can tell him to quit, but if he doesn't want to, he won't. Many people who are suffering, I know several persons today who are suffering from career problems. They are not willing to live within their own capacities. They have finally gotten up to be managers of a big business or one of the vice presidents or something of that nature, and they are going to be miserable until they get the top spot. Well, in many instances, they are not suited to the top spot. And in struggling desperately to transcend themselves, they make enemies. They try to downgrade other possible candidates because they want that spot. And then in the middle of it all, they have a thrombosis or something of this nature. The system breaks down completely under the pressure of this terrific ambition. Now, you can tell those people to stop and slow down, take it easy. I know cases where families have pleaded with these persons to take it easy, but the ambition drive is just too strong. That ambition will end in trouble. It has to. But when it comes to advising these people, you can say to them, yes, you're doing too much. You're not living the way you should. We can also suggest maybe a way in which they might be able to ease up a little on these problems. Diversify. Many of these people have never had a hobby. They've never done any vocational thinking. Get them started on some kind of rest. Put a golf club in their hands and tell them to go out and get into the air, to do something else to help themselves along. Sometimes they will do it. Most often they won't do it. But we have no right to go in there and say to this individual, it is divinely appointed that you play golf. We have it from the archangels that if you don't, you'll get into trouble. Man will probably then go back, and if he doesn't do the things he shouldn't do, he'll be tempted to. So these things won't work. We cannot help people beyond the words of a few syllables. Things like the words of Christ, the Last Supper, or something of this nature, are very simple words. They're words that are supposed to go right past the mind and go into the heart. They are supposed to represent an inner dedication to values, a deeper spiritual insight. And they are always words of kindness, words that are not critical. Today we have a great world of people fighting each other, everyone afraid of everyone. And this, in the fact that we have in this world today probably 1.5 billion Christians who claim to believe in the words of Christ. Many of them have been baptized, attend regular church, go to confession, and receive extreme unction. But why do these people not ever seem to get around to the words of the person they consider to be God on earth, the personal onlyest born of the Father, where he says very simply, love ye one another. Now everything else really in the form of advice fails, because that is the basic advice. And on that you can build all kinds of relationships. You can make all kinds of interpretations of how things should be. You can build an elaborate philosophy to justify the proof that peace is better than war. But unless the individual finally realizes that the final bond that can hold humanity together is love and nothing else, and that this love is sincere, that is the kind of love that will sacrifice self for the one who is the beloved. And if we will sacrifice ourselves for that world to which we belong, it won't be long before peace will be here. But while we continue to preach it and nobody does anything about it, we are in the same position we were in before. Now comes the question, can we force this peace? Can we demand the peace? Can we assassinate anyone who doesn't keep the peace? Can we jail the person who is contentious? Are we ever going to be able to create this peace by a frontal attack upon the vices of society? Friends, chances are we will never be able to do it. We will never be able to do it because legislation cannot do it. And wherever legislation attempts to change natural temperament, we have the proof of the fact that karma is a responsibility that descends upon anyone and anything that tries to force a change in human nature. You can't do it this way. The change has to come from within the person. Deity knows this, or the universal system is aware of this fact, because gradually it forces upon the individual the need for self-correction. We avoid it as long as we can. We like to be selfish. We want to gratify our appetites and ambitions. But gradually, one by one, we come to this desperate fact that all of this competition has no significance in terms of space or eternity. All of these things come and pass away again. Everything that we have fades away. It is only that which we are that endures. And we want that which we are to be something we can endure in peace. We do not want what we are to be at war. We do not wish the faults that we allow to arise in the personality. We do not want them to infect the soul behind the personality and gradually corrupt all the peace and happiness that we can possibly hope for. So, we have to say to a person, first of all, make peace with the realities of life. Do it in your own way. But come out with something that you've done that you're proud of for the good of others. Remember the wisdom of St. Francis de Assisi. Remember the kindness and thoughtfulness of the great mystics of the past. And try to gain the answer to your grief by rising triumphantly above the causes in your own nature which brought about that grief. Griefs are things that we all suffer from, but we recover from them if we have proper attitudes. Someone will say, I've been asked a number of times, why don't more people have better attitudes? Well, one reason is that in our society, attitudes, good attitudes, are not taught. We are not taught from childhood that which will bring peace to ourselves and others. We are taught to take advantage of the weakness of each other. We are taught that we are still living in a jungle, and that in this jungle each individual must scratch his own way. But actually, there cannot be any peace in society until that peace is experienced within the heart of persons. Now, it doesn't have to be in everyone's heart at one time, but it has to be something that spreads, grows, unfolds, and enriches. And if it starts to grow, it can spread just as war has spread. It can become a spread of a great peacefulness, and gradually nearly everyone who has ever suffered will be glad to stop suffering. But it has to start within ourselves. So when someone comes to you and wants to know what to do about buying that new house or something of this nature, the answer is to take it inside of self. Don't ask another person for the answer. Examine the facts and you'll find the answer. But if your ambitions, your selfishness, or your cupidity is stronger than your judgment, you will not find the answer and will suffer the karmic consequences. All karma, basically, is the result of the wrong applications of energy in the processes of existence. And whether it is our own energy that is wrong, or whether we've coached somebody else to use their own energy badly to try to affect us in some special manner, the fact remains that the only answer is that doing it right creates no karma. Now you say, well, maybe it should create good karma. Well, in a sense, I don't know whether you need to say it that way. We all say it. I've said it many times. But if we do nothing to cause bad karma, the result is good karma. It is peace. We have done nothing to disturb the values of life. The values of life suddenly reveal themselves in all their natural beauty and their wisdom and insight. If we are not breaking the rules, we do not know there are any rules. If we are keeping the patterns of life correctly, life is a beautiful, natural experience, and we can face it with the strength of internal character. Certainly we will have our ups and downs, or we must have those, because we are part of a mixed society. But we will always have the internal resources to come out triumphantly, happily, and peacefully from the situations that present themselves. So we'll say that somebody now, in this pressure of things, says they feel that they know exactly what somebody else ought to do. This individual doesn't want to do it, therefore he is stubborn, he is ignorant, he is unpleasant, because he does not want to do just what we want him to. So we may find ways of trying to convert him, more or less forcibly. We may say to him, well, if you don't change your ways and do what I suggest, you are not in our employment any longer. That is one way of putting a pressure on a situation. Another one is, if you don't wish to live in harmony with the laws of our family, get out of the house. This is another pressureful thing, which is a way of trying to change a person to meet our requirements, when in reality we should only change people to help them to meet their own requirements. Then we may say, if you join this other religion, I will disown you. That is another mistake. Sometimes it goes so far as to say, if you do this particular thing, I'll kill you. It is this tremendous pressure, determination to change other people, but never giving these other people an example of the benefit of a better attitude toward life. The revenge goes on. It is never solved, never settled. The antagonisms build and build, and then we wonder why the world is in the trouble it's in most of the time. But wherever we try to force, it may not be so strenuously, but now there are many different doctrines floating around, which in a sense are perfectly all right. There's no reason why a person shouldn't follow the religion that is closest to his own heart. But when he joins something that forces him to change his own internal life in a direction he does not want to change it, then something is wrong. If this belief forces him to do things that he is not ready to do yet, and he tries to do them, he will be in trouble, and the group will be the victim of its own bad karma. If this other group wants him to perform actions